Hey everybody, Jamie from the Marine Doctors YouTube channel, and today we're going to talk about Force and Chrysler. I know, you all love them, but let's start with a little bit of history. So back in 1977, my dad started the shop, and he was eventually became a Chrysler parts distributor. Okay, not a dealer, a distributor for Western Canada. Fast forward a few years, US Marine buys Chrysler and takes the engine and creates Force. We get downgraded to dealer, and then the advent of the Force engine hits the market, right? US Marine wanted an inexpensive engine that they could put on their Bayliner boats, and that's exactly what they did. Okay, so around that time, I guess it would have been in the early 90s when I started getting into heavily into this and started going to school. I had my Mercury papers, my Mariner papers, my Mercruiser papers, and my Force papers. Okay, so I was a certified technician for Force, and I guess I guess I still am. But we fast forward a couple of years from there, and we start hearing, well, some bad things about Force. Well, for the most part, any dealer that wants to work on them or one that shows up at their shop, they basically state that they are garbage. Take them down the block, take them over to Saskatchewan. There's a guy there that, he's good with them, works on them all the time. Well, that was me, and he'll fix you up. Okay. We did that for a number of years, obviously, and then things started to tank for Force. They made some changes. Mercury bought US Marine. They put their gear cases on them. They put their ignition systems on them. Let's look at the 120 Force, for example. The 120 Force created 120 horsepower, right? Well, maybe. Okay, this is speculation, but I believe this is what happens, and this is kind of the rumor mill that I heard from some of the actual Mercury guys from years ago, was they downplayed the horsepower on the 115 versus the 120 Force so that they could have an engine, Mercury and Mariner, that would outperform Force at any given time. So the Force engine, they probably bumped its horsepower rating up so that it looked like it was going to create more horsepower than the 115, but it never did. So when we run them on the dyno, we don't expect to see those same numbers that we see from the 115s. All right, so that kind of news gets around. Force starts to, disappear off boats. It starts to become harder to sell used engines, and it definitely became harder to sell a new engine. Back then, 120 Force was $5,800 or something. Not a lot of money. Well, I guess maybe it might have been a lot of money, but at that time, you could get into a boat for like 13 grand compared to the 30, 40 grand now for something. This Bayliner, for example, back in its day was probably $13,995. That's all they were. Okay, so Force starts to get all this bad rap, so on and so forth. And let's back up a little bit even further, and maybe we can understand why this technology eventually faded out. And I think it started with Chrysler. Chrysler was a large bore displacement engine. I was happy with them. I thought they performed very well. They did have a couple flaws. One was a really outdated ignition system, which was battery operated distributor. Okay, but there was another company at that time was running one as well. We will mention them. Mercury was also running at a time battery operated ignition that was distributor driven, and they eventually moved to alternator driven ignition, which is ADI, which has the stator and trigger and so on and so forth, which Johnson was running for a long time, and Johnson also ran a battery operated ignition at the same time. Okay, so Chrysler had the idea that they would, in 1977, they would come out with the 55 and the 115, I believe, and they made some drastic changes to the product. They changed the gear case, they gave it a beefier gear case, and they came out with, you guessed it, Magna Power 2. Okay, it was still a battery driven ignition system, but it was all underneath, yes, it was still battery driven, because we still measured the 12 volts up at the top. So it was a battery driven ignition system, but it was underneath the flywheel. So I think they did 2 years of that, and then on the third year they came out with a conversion kit to turn it back into a different ignition system because this one failed. But the new ignition system that they came out with was ADI for the 115 anyway. I don't remember what the 55 and 65 was. It might have just been a battery operated power pack version that they, and points or something. I don't remember. That's a long time ago. But they started coming out with the newer ignition systems, and then they phased that out completely, went back to the distributor, or just carried on with the distributor ignition. And then, what was it, 1983, 84, they came out with, or teamed up with Prestolite to create an ignition system for them. Now, keep in mind, these are reasons why that engine, or Chrysler, eventually sold out, okay? So they revamped the gear case on the larger engine as well to give it a beefier gear set, right? They changed it to a single housing rather than a double housing on the larger engines. And on the 65, I think they went with the single housing as well. So they were making some big steps, some big gains on everybody else. The block remained the same. The block was the same. But this ignition system that they put on was ADI. It had couplers that you could take apart and push back together. You take a couple bolts out, you could change a part, okay? And then in 1988, somebody thought it was going to be a really good idea if they got rid of the couplers and they put a whole bunch of wires in play. So now anyone that looked at this engine just went cross-eyed and went totally confused and thought, what TH? What the heck, right? It took everyone's ability to work on these things and just tossed it out the door, because it was so complex now that it just didn't make any sense to the average person. You had to go to service school to figure these things out. So now we had less people that were wanting to work on them or that could work on them. They would just shake their head and go, no, send it down the block. So again, I had to learn all of that stuff. Did you know that the 85 had 2 power packs and only 1.5 of them were used? So you had a free half pack. So if one cylinder went down because of the power pack, you could always change it. But standing there looking at the wiring, and again, what the heck? No, it's too complex. It's too confusing. Even the manuals were confusing. Anyway, aside from that, we move ahead. They continued with their cross flow design rather than going to loop charge like everything else, every other manufacturer was doing. And I think they put oil injection on the jet drives, and they put those into a whole, they really tried to push this product and keep it going, but in the end, it just didn't make any sense. It had gotten such a bad rap through the years that a new ignition system, a new gear case, new tilt and trim, all of these things that Mercury tried with that engine, aside of, you know, maybe giving it better publicity, dwindled and finally went away. I think in and around the same time that the Mariner name disappeared up here in Canada, the Force engine dissolved. So now we became a strictly Mercury dealer, because again, that's all that's available for Merc. So we sell tons of Mercs through here because we're a loose engine dealer. We don't actually sell boats. But I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of history about Chrysler, what my thoughts were, so on and so forth. If you guys worked on them, or if you guys like them, if you own one, comment below. And let's have a chat about those engines. Me personally, around the time when they were initially brought out, or not brought out, I guess in my history of working with them, I would have taken, believe it or not, a Chrysler over an inline 6 Merc any day. And I'll be honest with you guys, when people come in with their inline 6s now, or their 4-cylinders, their inline Mercs, I just shake my head and say, why are you guys trying to keep these things going? Johnson, Evinrude in that era, like their V4s, their crossflows and stuff, absolutely, I'll keep those going. But when they come in with that archaic technology that is Mercury's old engines, I work on them. It's not my favorite thing to work on them. I do try and get them back out on the water. But, you know, I think, in my opinion, they're now where Force is, or yeah, where Force was when they started to go downhill. It's just not worth keeping those things going. The technology is 4-stroke now. Make the switch over to 4-stroke. I know some of you probably still love the smell of the blue smoke, because it reminds you of maybe your youth. And let's throw some pine in there as well, because pine and smoke, that's the lake, right? But switch over to the 4-strokes, and I'll tell you this, you switch over to a 4-stroke, if you own a pontoon boat, you're gonna have to go to the back a couple of times at the start to make sure the engine's actually running, because they're so quiet. It's just a different world out there. Anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.